So obviously ESNP in independent Scotland would not have the nuclear deterrent.
Absolutely not. And you can imagine people who live where I live, which is just down the road from the Faslane nuclear base, are listening to that and thinking that doesn't sound terribly good. Certainly in Scotland there is a significant body. Parliament in Scotland and in civic society too, and I can only see that feeling growing.
It's not for me to decide whether the people of Scotland have a nuclear weapon, but it's for the people of Scotland. But the idea that in a world where we have nuclear weapons, that we would try and put the toothpaste back in the tube where it's not going to go is absolutely asinine. And the idea that we would stop being able to defend ourselves by having a deterrent in a world where people like Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin have nuclear weapons is completely absurd. It's absurd. We have to have a deterrent, otherwise where would Vladimir Putin's troops be today? The only reason they are still in Ukraine and not in Poland is that we have nuclear weapons. It's as simple as that.
So I'm wondering whether the future of those sports is you don't contest gender with gender, you contest hormone ratios.
Well, hold on a second.
What
but
do you think of that?
The differences physiologically between men and women are not just hormonal. Women have a different hip angle. They have different heart capacity. They have different lung capacity. I mean, there are profound physiological differences, different bone density. We've had professional athletes on the show to talk about it.
I don't have a problem with that. So then you find ways to slice the population so that whatever the event is interestingly contested.
Look at it like this. If 50% of the people who lived in London were Scottish, would we be okay to say that it's less English than it was when it was 10%?
We would say it is
Would that be
British.
okay? Well, no, but answer this question. Would it be okay or not?
Would it be okay? I'm trying to get my head around that.
If 50% of the people who lived in London were Scottish,
yes,
would it be okay to say that London has become less English?
Well, if they were Scottish, yeah.
Right, so what's the difference?
But
so what's the difference?
Oh no! What happened?
Do you not consider yourself as English?
No.
Why is that?
Because I'm British. I'm a British.
So when you go to
person.
Scotland, if you go to Scotland, so where have you come from? What do you say?
Well, I'd say I live in London. I'm originally from Russia.
But why can't you say I'm from England?
Because I'm not from England. I wasn't born. No, I'm not. I wasn't born here. I didn't grow up here. I came here when I was 13.
When you're in Scotland and you're on the road and there's an arrow pointed towards England, do you not go that direction because that's where you're from, England? Why
I'm not
can't
from
you
England. I wasn't born here. I didn't grow up here.
But you just said are you from London?
No.
Now, comedians of all stripes have been speaking out today in defence of the controversial comic Jerry Sadowitz.
Going to a Jerry Sadowitz show and being offended is like a vegan going to a steak restaurant and being horrified that there's dead animals on the table. It's ridiculous.
I sensed that quite a lot of people in the audience were there so they could laugh at a bit of racism because they don't get the chance all that often. Does that trouble you?
If I were a mind reader like you, it would trouble me. I have no idea why the people were enjoying his show. I have more faith in human beings than perhaps you do. I believe that people are able to understand irony and very clever comedy that Jerry Sadowitz does.
Well, as you correctly point out, I was there, you weren't. I was watching what was going on around me and trying to assess who thought what about it. But listen, it was fascinating to hear.
And how did you assess that? Sorry.
Well, just by judging, by watching people watching their body language and listening to them around the venue.
You can tell what someone thinks.
No,
from
I'm not.
Their body
I'm not saying I knew what they were
impressive.
thinking. I'm just saying it struck me that might have been the case.
No, you did say you knew what they were thinking.
No,
you said exactly that. You said that you knew that
I said
they
I
were
was
there
concerned
to laugh
they might have been.
The idea that North Korea is where North Korea is because of a lack of diversity is interesting. I would put it to you, Aaron, that the reason when North Korea is where it is because of the ideology that you so proudly support in Novara Media. The term far right has quite a clear and defined meaning in language. And the meaning is Nazis and people who believes that Jews should be murdered and people who believes that gypsies should be murdered and people who believe that disabled people should be murdered. That is who the far right is. 56% of this country was concerned about immigration in 2015 before Brexit, as I said. Are you telling me that 50% or more of this country is far right by the definition I just gave. The irresponsibility of people on the left who have thrown that term around, starting with people like David Lammy, who said that the ERG were worse than the far right. It's disgusting. These people have destroyed the meaning of the word, and they should be ashamed of themselves.
So the original question was, should Rishi Sunak be replaced with someone else to save the Conservative Party? I mean, you could dig up the corpse of Winston Churchill and reanimate it. It still wouldn't save the Conservative Party. Whenever the next election happens, the Tories are going to get what they deserve, which is a massive drubbing. They will lose lots of seats. They will lose lots of MPs because they have failed to deliver the things they promised the British people. They promised to reduce immigration to the tens of thousands. Last year it was over 600,000. They promised to crack down on illegal immigration. We currently spend £8 million a day on hotels for illegal immigrants. How many of you voted for that? All the hands go down, I'm not surprised to say. But yes. Fiona, this is kind of my point. This isn't about Rishi Sunak. The point is, for the last 14 years, the Tories have failed to deliver on the things forget about, whether Labour are happy with them. The problem is they have failed to deliver the things they promised their own electorate. And Rishi Sunak is not the problem. The problem is the Conservative Party.
OK, well, let's hear from the man here.
That was basically my point. Freedom of speech doesn't exist in the Western world for everyone, because for people that are ethnic minorities, their voice is actually not being heard.
As for slavery, well, if you want to go there, my friend, let's go there.
But not too far.
Well, I mean, this is a conversation that is mind-boggling to me in the West. Let's be very clear. The reason there is no slavery in the world today, I mean, there's a lot of slavery in the world today, but in the parts of the world where there's no slavery, is because the British Empire ended it. That's why there is no slavery. That is, well, look, the fact that you are uneducated about history doesn't mean it's funny. So let me educate you now. I know that the woke narrative and the anti-Western narrative on slavery, well, you're not practicing free speech very well, are you? You're not practicing free speech very well, are you? The moment I say something you don't like, you're not practicing free speech very well, are you? So
thank you.
I thought you were all about free speech. How about you let me finish my point?
Let's finish the point, and then I'm going to...
Now.
And then I will bring it to our on-stage
and
audience.
The anti-Western narrative on slavery is there was no slavery, and then the British or the Americans came along and they started slavery. Slaves were the first good that were ever traded between human beings. Ever. They were the first good ever traded. Native Americans had slaves, Ottomans had slaves, African had slaves. Everybody had slaves. The reason there is no slavery in the West is the British Empire, having practiced slavery for a long time, like everybody else, ended it. Not only that, the British Empire then spent a tremendous amount of blood and treasure to force the Middle Eastern slave traders, with the trans-Saharan slave trade being much worse than the transatlantic slave trade.
Constantine, that is not what this gentleman said.
In terms of the number of people who were killed,
Constantine,
let's
just bring in Steve
in terms of
for a
how
second.
long it lasted, it was much worse. And we spent a tremendous amount of blood and treasure to stop it. The sad truth of the world is that every great empire and every great civilization was created through conquest. If you look at Russia on the map, it's the biggest country in the world. That didn't happen by holding hands and singing Kumbaya. I studied Islamic history when I was at university. The great successes of the caliphate in its early days were not achieved through holding hands and singing Kumbaya. Every great civilization advances through conquest. When people talk about colonialism and complain, all I hear is losers complaining about losing.
If you were interrupted, it would almost certainly have been me.
Yeah,
so
it was.
I apologize.
It was, but
let me just recap it very quickly. I believe in property rights. Do you have a front door in your house?
I do have a front door.
There are people who are homeless. Why don't you let them into your home?
I would say that property rights can and should be curtailed in order that others might live.
So someone might freeze to death. Should they be forcefully entered into your home?
If someone was freezing to death at my door, I would have a moral duty to let them in.
A moral duty is a different thing. You're talking about compelling someone through violence. Right, you're threatening somebody with violence for not doing something you don't want done.
So it's always violent to compel someone to share things when they've got too much.
Compelling people requires violence, yeah.
But how can you meaningfully be free if you are starving to death? How can a hungry man meaningfully be said to have freedom?
I don't understand. What is the lack of freedom there?
If you're starving, how are you free?
If you're starving, how are you unfree?
Because you cannot exercise your freedoms, you cannot participate in a community of people, you cannot exercise your political rights because you are dying.
So freedom means being able to do things because other people have provided them for you. Is that what you mean?
I'm saying that freedom means that you are able to act on your human capacity for reason, for critical engagement, to participate in a political community, and you can't do that if
it's a very strange argument. As someone who slept in a park for weeks and did go hungry, I don't think I felt any less free. I was just hungry. These are different things.
You think that it's possible to participate as a meaningful political agent if you are on the verge of death?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, when I was going hungry and sleeping in a park, participating in the political system wasn't my main priority, but I didn't feel unfree. I felt poor and hungry and homeless. This is not connected to freedom in any way.
Australian Aboriginals are the oldest Indigenous culture in the world. Do you know why there's so few of them? We killed them.
Yes.
We committed a genocide.
Why were we able to do that? Why were we able to do that?
What are you implying?
I'm just asking you the question.
Are you implying because we're better?
No.
What are you implying?
We were technologically far more advanced. That's what I'm implying. What's not clear about that?
So you're saying...
I'm saying we were technologically more advanced. Would you
So you're saying we're
that?
superior to Australian Aboriginals?
That's quite the opposite of what I'm saying. I'm not saying we were superior. I'm saying we were technologically more advanced.
So how is that the opposite?
Superior implies a moral quality. I'm not making any moral implication. You seem to be, but what I'm saying is...
I think most people would hear it that way.
No.
Again, you're a very intelligent man. How would most people hear that?
Most people would hear what I'm saying for what I'm saying, which is...
Don't think they would. My visceral reaction to a white man sitting and saying to me, and why were we able to commit genocide on them? And then just pausing.
Yes.
Is very visceral to me.
Well, let's go back. First of all, it's interesting that you brought up my skin color because I thought that was the exact opposite of the point you're trying to make in the book. But anyway, let's come back to the argument.
You haven't read my book, so you wouldn't know what the point is.
You said that the point of your book is it's all about you can't say this as this person and whatever. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
You're very reductive. I thought you were a lot more intellectual than this.
I think this is very revealing.
What you said was quite significant
to me.
It was quite. It wasn't. It's not that it was offensive. It's scared to me.
Okay. So
that did.
Right.
That did.
So anytime I say something that scares you, this is how you react. Whereas if you listen to what I was saying, it's actually perfectly logical and reasonable.
It's quite controlling what you're doing now.
Controlling.
You're controlling the way that I operate in the interview space, where I've done nothing inappropriate. No. I've just debated you.
No. You're demonstrating, and earlier in the interview, exactly the opposite of what you claim you're trying to do, which is the moment I say something you don't like, you become aggressive and highly emotional.
Aggressive and highly emotional? I'm just having a debate with you.
No.
I'm showing passion.
No, especially not at the beginning you weren't. But anyway, what I'm saying to you is...
I didn't like
one
thing that you said in a way that I found unpleasant.
Yes.
And I did react to that.
Yes.
But if I don't...
So you're not reaching anyone who's listening to this conversation by doing that, is my point. So
you don't know that. You don't know who I'm reaching.
Oh, I know.
I
know audience pretty well. I know audience pretty well. This is one of the best places to live in the world, and that's what we should be talking about. The fact that we're... Shame on... Well, this is exactly the problem that I'm talking about. You are saying shame on you for talking up Britain. And that is exactly the problem that we're talking about.
Okay.
This is one of the best places to live in the world for minorities like me. It's the best place to be a woman. It's
Can I just say, there's no point in shouting out for the audience because the people at home can't hear you. So and also let's try not to talk over each other. I asked Konstantin a question. In fairness, I have to let him answer.
So we've got to stop. We've got to stop talking down our country.
Okay.
We've got to stop shouting over people who are talking.
It's only the West that has created industrial-scale imperialism. If you look at the Arab lands, if you look at the Chinese had the technology. The Indians had the technology. The Indians had an industrial revolution before Britain, and they did not conquer the rest of the world.
But that's exactly what the Islamic world did. The Islamic world expanded from a tiny part of land to conquer all of southern Europe and all of North Africa.
But this is a fake history of the Islamic world.
Hold on a second. And not only that, to transport more Africans from sub-Saharan Africa into the Arab world than the Western powers collectively
did. Okay, look, we can't settle this now.
Which country has made more progress? We talk endlessly in the West about racism. Okay. What other great civilizations in the world are better at race relations than we are? Is it Russia? When I was last in Russia, there was a song playing on the metro, which was, they killed a la 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 la, he can't play basketball anymore. In China, one of the most popular commercials on TV was a Chinese girl who was approached by a black man. She pours him off and shoves him into a washing machine. She puts the product that is being advertised into the washing machine. And what's the payoff? He comes out Chinese. Where is this great world to which we are comparing ourselves to? You cannot compare our civilization to utopia. You have to compare it to reality. And in reality, we are the best civilization in existence today. And that is why we must maintain our dominance around the world. And what we have today in the modern West is a new framework of discrimination. We have decided that it is okay to discriminate against white people. It's okay to discriminate. Oh, you laugh. Well, let me give you some statistics. Fantastic, I enjoy that.
Well, before you give us some statistics.
No, let me give some statistics.
You can come back
if you are Jewish or Asian or white, it is much harder for you to get into an American university because all of those groups are widely discriminated against in that society.
That's simply untrue.
That is factually correct.
That is simply untrue.
For the same SAT score, you are much less likely to get in. The BBC has whole realms of jobs that are not available to white people. There are internships that prohibit white people from applying. Now, I don't regard myself as white. I'm a first-generation Russian, Ukrainian, Greek, Jewish immigrant. I hate this stuff, and I hate it because it unfairly privileges people who do not deserve the privilege. What we should be doing is eliminating discrimination, not introducing new types of discrimination.
I think when you're born on first base and everybody else is trying to come up behind you.
I was not born on first base.
You already are.
How?
As a man.
You're a man.
As a man compared to half of the population. You have advantages that are undeniable.
Really?
They are. And you know, you already are ahead of the curve in applications to things, in the way that resumes are reviewed. And so, you know, and you have a privilege of walking around in the world being perceived as white, even if you don't perceive yourself that way, in terms of how you're treated.
I was literally called a pansy at school.
Okay.
How am I perceived as white?
Well, it depends on where you are in the world.
Right. So in my country, I was name-called and discriminated against for being brown. So I have a privilege. You've decided by looking at me that I have privilege?
We all have privilege on this panel. Everyone does. Everyone carries bits of it, right? I'm just saying, and I'm not saying that there aren't differences in admissions. I mean,
there are.
The consequences of the discrimination that you see in place.
It's the end of meritocracy. It's the end of meritocracy.
It never started. Meritocracy never begun to end. There's never been meritocracy.
Okay, let me rephrase for the pedants.
Privilege.
Let me rephrase for the pedants.
And
it's the end of the pursuit of meritocracy as the goal.
Most people know what hate speech is when they see it, and should be able to.
I don't know that I know what hate speech is when I see it.
And also, do you not feel as well?
It's a shame.
I don't know that Tottenham
fan. For you.
Well, I don't know. So you could say all sorts. Is Tottenham fans?
What you're doing is desperately trying to find the one or two examples of things in which there is a marginal case where the use of hate speech is just about justifiable. So you're going to talk about the use of the Y word by Tottenham fans.
Right.
You're going to talk about this one case in Liverpool with this young lady who posted the lyrics of a rapper in homage to someone she loved, who was his favourite song, which is his favourite song.
Well, I was answering your question.
And I can see those. And those are absolutely fringe cases. But it's sad to me that you can't define...
No, sorry. Hold on a second. You're misrepresenting what I'm saying. I'm not saying if someone comes up to a black person...
Again, rewind and just listen.
Good. I hope people do that because they'll see that you're misrepresenting what I'm saying. What I'm saying, I'm not saying if someone walks up to a black person in the street and calls them the N-word, that's not hate speech. I'm not going, oh my God, well, I don't know what that is. What I'm saying is the definition has to include everything that is hate speech and exclude everything that isn't. Well, that's what a definition is.
The definition of hate speech, you can go to the absolute fringes of things which may or may not be, depending on the circumstances, or you can just say, for the main part, it's f***ing obvious. So please don't make a game out of it. The Macpherson definition of racism is whether or not the victim perceives it as being hateful and harmful towards them.
So if you kept interrupting me during the course of this conversation, which you have, and I perceive that to be motivated by the fact that you're from a Muslim background and I'm from a Jewish background, would that make that hate speech?
No.
But my self-perception is that.
No, it's just that you're really slow at talking and my brain's already finished your sentence
But
for you.
My perception isn't that. You walked out of the room, and when you walk out of here, I'm going to turn to these guys and say, well, that was a lot of hate speech, wasn't it?
That's fine. You can say that that's hate speech.
And then you can be prosecuted.
It's absolutely fine for you to say that's hate speech if you want.
And then you can be prosecuted.
If me interrupting you is hate speech, and that's your definition of it, I tell you what, you are being disrespectful to the people who do receive hate speech. The enormous number of people who receive hate speech, real, clear,
so do I,
undeniable hate speech.
So do I.
And your sophistry right now is both transparent
and
not deeply disrespectful. And I warn you that most of your listeners will think to themselves, actually, Konstantin's being a bit of a dickhead right now.
That's interesting that you say that, because what I'm doing is I'm stress testing your argument. And the point I'm making to you is a person's self-perception can be manipulated. People can lie about how they perceive their the things that they experience. And sometimes people will use the law against other people when it's badly written. Don't you think that's true?
I do think it's true.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm not really being a dickhead. I'm stress testing your argument. And calling me a dickhead might be considered hate speech.
No, it's not hate speech. It's just good observation.
Fine. Now, I want to talk to those of you who are woke and who are open to rational argument. A small minority, I accept. Because one of the tenets of wokeness is, of course, that your feelings matter more than the truth. But I believe in you. I believe there are those of you here who are woke, who are open to rational argument, so let me make one. We are told that your generation cares more than any other about one issue in particular, and that issue is climate change. We're told that many of you suffer from climate anxiety. You wish to save the planet. And for tonight, and tonight only, I will join you. I will join you in worshipping at the feet of Saint Greta of climate change. Let us all accept right here, right now, that we are living through a climate emergency and our stocks of polar bears are running extremely low. I join you in this view. I truly do. Now, what are we to do about this huge problem facing humanity? What can we in Britain do? We can only do one thing. You know why? This country is responsible for 2% of global carbon emissions, which means that if Britain was to sink into the sea right now, it would make absolutely no difference to the issue of climate change. You know why? Because the future of the climate is going to be decided in Asia and in Latin America by poor people who couldn't give a shit about saving the planet. It's going to be decided by poor people in Asia and Latin America who don't care about saving the planet. You know why? Because they're poor. Because they're poor. I come from Russia, which is not a poor country, it's a middle-income country. 20% of households in Russia do not have an indoor toilet. What they have is an outdoor toilet. And I don't mean one of those nice portaloos that we get here. I don't even mean a Glastonbury portaloo. I mean a wooden shack with a hole in the ground that holds a collected fermented memory of the last 10,000 visits. How many of you are going to go home tonight and say, let's rip out our bathroom and erect a Siberian shithouse in the back garden? And if you're not, why should they? If you said to me that I had a choice, either my son had a serious risk of starving or dying from a preventable disease in the next year, or I could press a button and he would live. He would go to school. He would bring his first girlfriend home. He'd go to university. and graduate and become a woke idiot. And then he'd get a job and get married and have children and become a man. But all I have to do is press this button. And for every day of my son's life, a giant plume of CO2 is going to get released into the atmosphere. Now, you're all very young, and most of you are not parents. Let me tell you something. There is not a parent in the world who would not smash that button so hard their hand bled.